Hey everyone, it's Stephanie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am making the most adorable Minecraft bee cake. My son is a really big fan of Minecraft, so this cake is for him. Also, I'm feeling really inspired by video games this year, obviously. So if you guys have a favorite game that you would like to see me make, please let me know down in the comment section, and then maybe I will make one of those in the future. Okay, let's get started. I get a lot of questions about building the structure, so let's go ahead and put this one together. I am starting with a 12-inch MDF board, and I got it cut at Home Depot, and I have glued on 4 MDF feet onto the bottom, and then I have also drilled 4 holes right in the middle of the board, and that is where the legs will go. I also need 2 thin threaded rods and corresponding washers and nuts. To hold up this bee, I actually need 4 legs, so I'm getting out my bolt cutters and I'm cutting the threaded rod into 4 pieces that are about 3.5 inches each. My next step is to screw a nut onto one of the threaded rods, add a washer, and then push the threaded rod up through the bottom of the board. And I'm securing it into place with another washer and nut. And then I'm repeating the same process with the remaining 3 legs, and then tighten everything up with wrenches or pliers. I'm trying to make it look like the bee is flying, so I'm going to cover my board in blue fondant, and this is the time I'll use up the fondant that maybe I've had sitting around in the kitchen for too long. Just make sure you knead in some Tylose powder into the fondant, which will help it with drying. To ensure I get this right, I'm marking a gap of 1.5 inches on the legs, and then I add another round of nuts and washers on all 4 threaded rods. The board I'm using here is an extra thick piece of foam core, so I'm pushing that down onto the legs, and then I secure it into place with another round of washers and nuts. And also you want to tighten this up really good too. Alright, my structure is finished. See, that was pretty easy. I baked 3 10-inch square cakes, 1 is chocolate and 2 yellow colored vanilla. Cutting these is easy. Trim off the top, toward it by running the knife through the center, and then use a rectangle template to cut out the rectangles of cake. We don't need to save the extra cake for later, so go ahead and use it for snacking throughout the cake making process. Let's stack up the cake. Begin with a cake board with holes cut out of it so it will fit over the threaded rods, and then start with a yellow cake and a layer of buttercream frosting, and then continue layering, alternating with a chocolate so that it looks like a bee on the inside too. Now that it's all stacked up, I'm giving it a first coat in chocolate ganache. I let that set up, and then I went back and added another coat of ganache. And then you can smooth this out with an icing scraper and a hot offset spatula. Then I carefully pick up my cake and I move it over onto the board. Be sure to add a thin layer of ganache to blend that board into the cake so we have a smooth surface. Okay, you guys know I like modeling chocolate, so I'm going to cover this entire cake in modeling chocolate, but if you want, you could also use fondant if you prefer. So I'm going to use the paneling method to cover this cake. So I'm rolling out a sheet of modeling chocolate. I place that on top of the cake, and then I put my ruler right under the modeling chocolate and I cut it away with the X-Acto knife. And that will give it a beautiful, precise, and sharp cut. I use this same paneling method all around the cake too. When I do the paneling method with fondant, I like to freeze the sheet of fondant for about 5 minutes. That way I can easily pick it up and move it around, and I can get that nice sharp cut just like I can with modeling chocolate. Okay, let's decorate it. So I got this new square cutter that I've seen others use on their Minecraft cakes, and I was really excited to use it, but for me, it just didn't work. Maybe my modeling chocolate was too soft, but the squares came out misshapen, and then I just ended up cutting out the squares individually, and I don't think it took that much longer. Now this part is somewhat time consuming, so using a photo from the internet as a guide, I'm sticking the squares onto the cake and they will stick on easily with water. So if you're short on time, you could always do less squares. Just be sure to get the brown stripes and the eyes so that it looks like a bee. In the game, when the bee turns aggressive, his eyes turn red. So if you want it to look like the bee is about to sting you, instead of doing black in the eyes, make them red instead. I think that would be really cute. Okay, let's work on the wings. First, I want to prepare my wires. So I'm using the template to bend the wires into the shape I want, and we need 2 wires for this. Someone asked me if I know a substitution for Flexique, and Flexique is a product I used on my dragon wings a couple of months ago. And unfortunately, I don't know a substitution, so today I am going to just experiment to see if I can come up with my own Flexique type of material. I'm using packets of gelatin and some water. I let it dissolve on low heat, and then I scraped off all of that white foam on the top, and then I added some vegetable glycerin. So what I'm doing here is I'm brushing the gelatin mixture on both sides of a piece of wafer paper. Use a soft brush so you don't rip the wafer paper like I did. And then I'm putting my wires down, and I'm making sure I have gelatin on the wires too. And I'm repeating the process of brushing the mixture on another piece of wafer paper, and I'm placing it on top of the wires, and then I'm brushing a final layer of the gelatin mixture. And then you'll want to let that dry overnight. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm making the antenna and stinger out of modeling chocolate, and I do want wires in these to help hold those into the cake. The wafer paper has dried, so I'm tracing around the wing template, and then I cut it out. I think it looks okay at this point. I can see some imperfections and air bubbles, which I'm not very crazy about, but I think it's okay. I decided to paint it with white food color gel, and doing this really brought out all of those imperfections. So then I decided to airbrush it to try to fix it, and that did help somewhat. I am going to keep testing out this recipe because I feel like I'm headed in the right direction, but I'm not quite there yet. Also, these wings are made of edible materials, but they are not for eating, they're for decoration only. Let's finish the cake by putting it all together. So you don't want to stick wires directly into a cake. So I am going to bend the wires in half so it will then fit really tightly into a small juice straw. And then you can stick the antenna into the cake and it should stay in place nicely. You can also add some edible glue if needed. Same process for the wings, and these are really neat because you can move the wings around into different positions. And finish it off with the stinger in the back. My cute Minecraft bee cake is complete. He looks like he's about to fly right off the board. The bee is my favorite mob in Minecraft. It's just so cute. Do you have a favorite mob? Tell me in the comments. If you like video game themed cakes and would like to see more, I also made a Mario Kart cake a couple months ago, and it really blew up on my TikTok, so you should go check that video out as well. And let me know if you guys have any ideas for me. Alright, I'll see you guys later. Bye everybody.